Welcome back to Educator.com's AP English Language and Composition course. This lesson is an overview of the multiple choice section. Let's get started. All right, as always, we're going to begin with an overview of the lesson. We're going to talk about question structure, the nature of the questions you'll be asked in the multiple choice section on the AP test. Then we're going to talk about selection sources. Now, if you saw our introductory video, our first lesson, you'll know that the multiple choice section is basically a series of questions based on a series of passages. You'll have a short passage to read, and then you'll have to answer a set of questions about it. So we're going to talk about where those selections come from. And then we're going to go over some basic test-taking strategies to help you get a better score in the multiple choice section. All right, question structure. In the multiple choice section, you will be given 5 to 7 passages, sometimes more, sometimes less, each of them followed by 5 to 12 multiple choice questions about each passage. 5 options per question, A, B, C, D, E. Basically, if you have longer passages, you will have fewer of them. Longer passages tend to have more questions associated with them. Now, here's a tricky bit. The passages will often be out of context, that you won't know the author, you won't know the title, you won't even get any helpful footnotes. Often all you'll get is a date to tell you why someone's talking so funny. So you have to do a lot of work just based on the text in front of you, and you can't bring in a lot of outside knowledge unless by some miracle you recognize the source of the passage. That's pretty unlikely since they like to take more obscure passages, but occasionally you do get lucky. It did happen to me once. You will have to answer questions about the main idea or main ideas of the passage, so look for the big picture. You'll have to talk about how the passage is written, tone, vocabulary, that kind of thing, how the author gets his or her point across. Then you'll have to answer questions about specific details of the passages. What does this word mean in context? What detail, what little twist is in here? And finally, you'll have to make inferences about the passage, such as the author's purpose in writing. You'll have to read the passage and draw conclusions not based on the literal text, but kind of reading between the lines and drawing conclusions from there. All right, so where do these selections come from? Well, most of the passages, note that I said most, not all, will come from works written in the 19th and 20th centuries. Yes, I said 19th and 20th. You will not be lucky enough to have everything be in nice, happy 20th century English, and you probably won't have very much from the 21st. You will have some 19th century works, but that's not all you have to worry about, because at least one selection will probably come from a work written before 1800. So then you get into the these and thous, then you get into the classical allusions, then you get into older vocabulary, older sentence structures, and your head starts hurting. All the selections on the test were either written in English or translated into English. Gee, that's helpful. Then now they have everything written in English or translated into it in the last 500 years. Oh, joy! And these selections will probably not be taken from works that you have read in class. So you probably won't recognize them right off the bat and go, oh, that's from this, unless you're regularly in the habit of reading 16th century literature. Now, that's actually a pretty wide field. Some of the stuff you see on this test will include things like fiction. So you may have a selection from a novel or short story. You may have selections from essays. You may have selections from biographies and autobiographies, including diaries. You may have speeches, you may have letters, you may have works of journalism, you may have literary and cultural criticism, writing about something. You may have science and nature writing. You may have selections on politics, and you may have selections on or from history. So, pretty wide field. You could get any of this. All right. Basic test-taking strategies. How do you actually handle this selection? Well, this is going to sound really stupid and obvious, but read the passage first. I know that some test prep manuals and some courses will tell you read the questions first so that you know what you're going to be asked and then read the passage. Don't do that. Seriously, don't. The reason we got a picture of trees here, look at the forest before you look at the trees. The reason is some of the questions on the test are actually designed to trick students who read the questions first. They're designed to take things out of context and, particularly vocabulary questions. They'll use words with multiple meanings, and if you haven't actually read the passage, you'll think you know the answer. That will color your reading of the passage, and you'll get it wrong. So, read the passage first. You're being asked about the passage. Start with the information you're given. All right. Read for the big picture. Look for the main idea. Just kind of get the gist of it. Get familiar with the structure and tone of the passage, what's there, what's not there, how is it expressed, and avoid those traps. Remember those trick questions I just told you about? Watch out for those, read the passage first, and you will be, to some extent, protected from those traps. All right, do everything twice. What does that actually mean? You will have 8 to 12 minutes to tackle each passage and its questions. That's about 1 minute per question, including reading time. So understand the 1 minute per question, a certain amount of that time you will actually have spent reading the passage already, but that's okay because that's what you need. Make 2 passes through the test. Okay, read all the passages, answer all the questions, answer the easy questions first. Remember, every question on this test is worth exactly as much as every other question. Any given multiple choice question is worth just as much as the one before it and the one after it, which means if you get all the easy questions first, you get as many points as you possibly can before you go back and sweat blood over the hard ones. If you have really hard questions, circle them so you can come back to them later if you have time. Remember, your job here is to get the maximum number of points, not to prove how smart you are by spending 20 minutes on one question. And finally, when you're done with the passage, if you have at least 5 minutes left in the time you've allotted yourself for it, go back to the hard questions. If not, save them for the end of the test if you have time then. All right, process of elimination. This is going to be your best friend on this test. Process of elimination. What if you absolutely don't know the answer? Oh no, I don't know what I'm doing. Ah! Well, here's what you do. If you guess completely blind, the test is in a language you don't speak, you have no idea, you're just circling those, you're seeing it out, as the saying goes, just circle C all the time. Well, you'll get about 20% of those answers correct, and you probably won't get a really great score. But if you can eliminate at least 2 choices and go, well, that one's obviously wrong, and that one's obviously wrong, well, now you have a 33% chance of getting things correct. That's a pretty good size bump, and the more choices you eliminate, the better your odds of getting things right, even if you do have to guess. And if you do have to guess, do remember, don't freak out, there is no penalty for guessing. Okay, if you get an answer wrong, you get 0 points. It's not like the SAT where they deduct a quarter of a point from your score for a wrong answer, so you're better off just leaving it blank. Answer every question if you possibly can, even if you have to guess randomly. But if you do have to guess, use process of elimination wherever possible. So, we've covered some basic test-taking strategies for the multiple choice section, and in our next lesson we will get into some more specifics of how to read a passage. That's all for this lesson. Thank you for watching Educator.com.